I got 11 A's, and then I applied for this JPA scholarship, so I got into the first interview. I meet another 2 girls who are Malay. They told me one of them got 6, another one of them got 5 A's. At that moment, I was thinking, unfair.
I think one thing that the Malays feel when it comes to discrimination is when we talk about getting jobs. You know, job application, when you say Mandarin only speaking, again, maybe that company has to deal with Chinese, you know, like companies from overseas, so they have to be able to speak Mandarin. Sometimes, like, it's not being advertised on the job offers. You know, when you don't really tell people that that's what you want, and then you feel like, am I being discriminated because I'm Malay?
I believe every races have equal rights in Malaysia.
Surfshark VPN 上网无界限. So today is a really special episode because we are really breaking the bubble.
Yes.
On my side, I have 2 Malay guests with me. Pengerusi Pertubuhan Perpaduan Anak Muda Malaysia, Dr. Fairul. And the second one is a lawyer, Mr. Ainul Aizat.
Actually, we invited 3 Malay guests. We have invited Malay female representative as well. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well. So guys, it's not that we want to suppress us or anything. We invite 3. Okay. And on the other side, we have representative from our Chinese. But this one, I'm not sure whether he's representing Chinese or not, because he's famous for knowing Malay politics very well. Lulusan Cina Abek, Mr. Dai Shiho.
Wow.
Lawyer from Borneo block, not a typical Chinese, Mr. VP. And we have previous news announcer from MTV7, we have Miss Chong Han.
Hi.
Without further ado, let's start. So can we have you guys to stand behind?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have more than 10 contacts from different races in my contact list.
Wow, everyone?
Wow.
Everyone?
Okay, I believe that more than 95% of Malaysians, especially those who are watching this video, have at least 10 contacts in their phone who are not from their same race. When we are Malaysian, something that we have to deal with certain people without regarding their racial background. Like for example, I'm a lawyer, I have clients from all races. I don't even know why Lucas want to think this as a question to begin with. You should say 100, then maybe... Just kidding.
For me, is that I think some of them are long-lasting friendships, especially from opposite races. You would see your Indian brothers would even take a bullet for you, I think. That kind of friendship. But for Chinese, I trust them even to... I became some of their shareholders. You know, a business partnership.
Tan I agree with him. It's very little. In Sarawak, you don't see a lot of sensitive topics being discussed on the press and by the politicians. And you get to mingle around with different races since you are young. I think the apparent racial tension that we can see sometimes, especially closer to elections, I mean on the news, I think it's a work of politics. Because if you really know Malaysians, you mingle around with your Malay friends, Indian friends, Chinese friends, you will see that we are actually more similar than we are different. We want the same thing. We want stable life. We want money. We want, find a way to feed our family. We want to take care of people closer to us. So, on ground level, I think that we are more similar than we are different.
I came from a background of mixed schools, so sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah, and but then I went to boarding school in sekolah menengah Sains Pokok. Even though we still have Chinese and Indians at our school, then I do my A level. Then of course they are mixed Chinese and Indians, and I went to Ireland and stayed there for 9 years to do medicine and work there. And I just started learning Chinese, so my teachers, obviously in my contact, even though I'm currently working in UiTM, right, as a medical lecturer, I still have a non-Muslim friend as a colleagues.
This is the first time I know that non-Muslim can work at UiTM.
You know, there's a lot of non-Muslim in UiTM. Sounds like very Malay, but it's not really.
Zihao just now mentioned that probably 95% of Malaysians have more than 10 their own ethnic contact in their contact list, but I may not so sure about that, because I think one of the reasons why 5 of us are having more than 10 contacts is because we are all working adults. But says if you invited some younger people, then probably you'll get a different result. Because I got my first contact who is not Chinese is when I was in university time, which means before my university I actually only mingle around with Chinese people.
That one I agree with her.
Very good point.
I retract part of my statement. I agree with Chong Han.
Thank you.
The segregation of race in Malaysia started with lifestyle and social circle. It can be geographical and it can be financial stature. So culture is actually secondary to that. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we are talking about a kampong in Kedah and we are talking about Penang. So Penang geographically are more populated with Chinese, and the lifestyle and the social circle is Mandarin speaking, and it's more non-halal way in many aspects. And then people who grow up in that environment with that kind of lifestyle, with that kind of speaking circle, will have lesser chance to expose to the real other culture that was that's situated in, let's say, Kedah, Kota Sarang Semut. Okay, to begin with. And in Kota Sarang Semut, the social lifestyle and also the speaking circle are predominantly Malay, where in Penang it's predominantly Chinese. There will be no cross path, but they are happy to stay in a kampong lifestyle in Kota Sarang Semut and a Banda lifestyle in Penang. So the Banda Malay and the Banda Chinese, no problem coexisting with each other. We understand each other's lifestyle. We meet each other in Starbucks. But when, let's say, a Banda Chinese goes to Kota Sarang Semut or Kota Sarang Semut Malay goes to Penang, that will be a cultural shock. And you see, whether you want to adapt to that or not, if no, then you will start to antagonize the entire community. Oh, these people in Kota Sarang Semut, they are lazy, they are not competitive. And these people in Penang, they are greedy, they are pressure and all these things. And then you go back to each other's place. To solve this problem, it's all about education and bring everyone closer to each other in terms of lifestyle and in terms of breaching the social speaking circle.
But if geographical factor is the major factor, how are we going to resolve it?
Well,
you want to move Kedah people to Penang, is it?
Okay, no, it's not about that. If you have a very strong centralized education system, then everyone be the same, okay? But not segregated education system, that will be one of the methods to solve that problem.
Abolishing
okay, put it this way, let's move into an extreme. SJK China vernacular for everyone is a solution. SK for everyone is a solution. Whatever system like Duli Yang Maha Mulia, Sri Patuka Baginda, Tuanku Sultan Johor say English should be the medium of education is also a solution. So one vernacular, it can be any language, one system for everyone from Perlis to Sabah.
I think if you want everybody to speak the same language, live the same lifestyle, I don't think that's feasible, because if you look at big countries like US, UK, multiracial countries, it's always the same thing. Suburb area, it's either all white or all black. Then city area is all different races coexist with each other. But does it mean that they are not united in a way, or does it mean that it's not good for the country?
I would like to share a theory or an opinion that I heard from one of the political analysts in Malaysia. His name is Ui Kibeng. We always wanted to say that we should live in the same room for us to be harmony, to be united. But is that necessary? Can we be in the situation where we are living in a different room? You have your own circle, you have your own privacy, you have your own liking way of lifestyle. But once we come out to a certain platform, let's say if in a house it will be living room. And if sometimes we step into the living room, if we can have respect towards each other, we talk to each other. But then after the connection, when we come back to our room, we can still live comfortability with our own style. I think we should be okay that, you only like to mingle with your own race. But the problem is when you come together in a certain places where you cross each other in the certain public issues or something, you have to learn how to respect each other. We can have different language. It's like when you go to travel in overseas. Of course, you don't speak Japanese when you are in Japan. You don't speak Spanish, you are in Spain. But if you learn how to respect, you still can live harmony, you still can get to know friends, you still can communicate.
I brought up my children in sekolah agama for the purpose of I want my children to be religiously, they know about religion, they understand. So like the way I do it is that they still in sekolah agama, but then at the same time I send them to program activities where they can mingle with other Chinese and Indians. We understand its importance of unity and how our children are being brought up. But at the same time we have to understand that the Chinese have their own priorities and they want their children to be same as the Malays, as in the Indians. And how do we acknowledge and how do we entertain their needs and their expectations for them? At the same time, we wanted to unite. These are very tricky things to do. So if we can teach and encourage the Malays and Indian and Chinese outside the education system, they go out and mix and respect. And I think that would be better.
I say this is one of the many methods. It's not the only methods. And I'm addressing the actual practical issue. I'm not telling my future, my harapan, my hope, and all these things. Of course, I hope what happened about respect, but the problem about respect is that we have different definition of respect. What methods? There are trillions of methods.
Speaking about breaking the boundaries, do you know what works the best?
Surfshark.
Yes, Surfshark VPN.
要打破同温层，当然就得使用 Surfshark VPN。
没有错 ，Surfshark VPN 可以帮助你顺利的跨领域观看不同的内容，没有人可以限制到你。
是的，像是我们办公室就使用了 Surfshark VPN 来看我们最喜欢的办公室情景剧 The Office。
那些被别人 block 掉的资讯，你也可以看得到哦。
除了可以看到，它同样是你网络的保障跟定心丸。
他们采用的加密手段可以更改你上网时的 IP 地址，确保你的网络行踪不会被监视跟踪，让有心人士根本无法窃取资料。
使用起来也非常迅速简单，只要一个账号就可以在电脑、电视、游戏主机等无限数量的设备上运行，非常的方便。
如果你有任何问题，随时联系 Surfshark VPN 的客服，他们7天24小时都会在线为你解答。用了过后不满意，30天内还可以退款哦。
是的，赶快使用我们的 promo code BBK Network 来获得免费3个月的使用。赶快点击下面的链接来领取吧。The second question, I had experienced discrimination in this land. Bahasa version, saya pernah mengalami diskriminasi di Malaysia.
Oh, okay, only 2%.
Please share.
All right. I'm not sure whether it is a discrimination or not, but it's just like a feeling of me having doubts. It was when I have my SPM done and I apply for JPS scholarship.
Oh.
So I got 11 A's, not all straight A1s, but like 7 or 8 A1s. And then I applied for this JPS scholarship, so I got into the first interview. You know, when before interview, we will arrive early, then we will meet people. So I meet another 2 girls who are Malay. And so we just sit there and have some chit-chat because we are waiting for the interview to start. So they told me one of them got 6, another one of them got 5 A's. At that moment, I was thinking, because some of my friends in my school who got like 7 A's, they can't even go into the first round interview. There was a doubt in my head like, oh, wow, why is it so? I'm not sure whether it's discrimination, but it's the first time I feel unfair.
So there was this day a few years ago. I was in Mama. Okay, so I have a meeting, scheduled meeting with some people. So I took a table with 3 seats, but it was quite a full. I mean, there's no vacancy, okay? So I sat there, and there's this person from another race with his wife and his son. 3 of them came, and they demanded me that they wanted the table because there are 3 of them and just one of me. So I explained to him that I'm waiting for other people. And then he said, but you are just alone. Why don't you just let us eat first? I'm here first. I ordered my food already. Then suddenly he yelled at me and he said something like, you're not even from this country. Why don't you just go back to your country? The balik China kind of thing.
So direct.
Like,
Okay.
Until his wife have to like pull him as dah lah bang kind of thing, you see. So that was quite rather a direct thing. But I mean, his wife was swift by pulling him away, or else I'm sure that someone will just take out his phone and record anything. I will be the victim and all this thing. I'm sure about that. It's just a one-off incident by a person, but I think that answered the question because I feel really discriminated for my race.
Okay, can we have other guesses first? Come back to have a seat.
I thought we were being discriminated.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
Banyak orang cakap
None of the stereotypes.
Cina racist sangat juga kan.
Well, I do have some suspicion. I worked in a majority non-Malay company before in my previous employment. I mean, much previous employment, one of my earliest. But you see, whether we truly experience discrimination is gonna be a individual experience. For Zihao, being told like that is a bit of, for me, it's not discrimination, it's more of an insult. More of a hate, to some extent can be deemed as a hate crime. But discrimination, in my own experience, is that, I experienced it overseas when I interviewed in some position. They never advertised that they want a European Union citizen, but when I appear and apparently to be doing slightly better than other candidates, suddenly the requirement becomes, you know, they only want EU citizen. I'm not too sure for taxation or whatever. But now that's, I consider discrimination, where your abilities are judged, but everybody got a different result because of your skin color. But it's overseas. In Malaysia, I know, I mean, if you look at my skin color, then you think I'm quite lucky. But when there's incidences of hate crime, of insulting, I am not spared by what Zihao said. For me, is that I feel a bit ticked off if I have a negotiation with a seller or in the transaction and suddenly they switch to other languages. For me, I feel ticked off. I mean, I can't understand you fully.
Okay. Hiding some information.
Yes, but I cannot deem that as a discrimination. I feel that, you know, that could be something that I'm uncomfortable with.
I also had some experience when I was in Ireland. Probably as a Malay, as a male Muslim, it's not really much apparent, but I can see the female Muslims, they're being discriminated very badly, like being thrown stones just because they were wearing hijab, tarik tudung, you know, that kind of things really happen in front of my eyes. Yeah, that's overseas. But there's one thing that I really thought my juniors, especially my friends, said, if we are in a group, like let's say myself, Malaysian, maybe there's Canadian, there's Irish, speak English. Don't speak Malay. Just because there's 2 or 3 Malays of you, you don't speak Malay in front of other people who don't understand you, because I think that's rude. So when you come back to Malaysia, when I've been living in Malaysia for 40 years now, there are certain things where you feel not insulted, kind of like insulted in a way when the other races speak and you are there, they speak in a language that you don't understand, like what I know just saying.
I think what I've experienced is more like awkwardness sometimes. Say for example, I went to a friend's wedding at Kampong, so I was the only Chinese man there. Then everyone's like, okay, because I think they don't know what to do. I also don't know what to do. I'll just follow everything that you do. But I think we are all trying to walk on the line of being respectful. I don't want to cross the line of being offensive and all that. So we are trying to be nice at some time. I mean, most of the times. So that turned out to be a bit awkward, but I do see the goodwill behind it.
I got one more sharing. Though I'm inside the incident, but I'm not a victim. Okay. So there's this good friend of mine who is a businessman. And he wanted to rent this place so badly. Then he said, Mr. Tai, can you negotiate with the landlord for us? I said, why don't you talk to the landlord yourself? The landlord is from another race. And then he said, apparently the landlord refused to rent it to me because I came from this racial background. So I have to ring up the landlord. Landlord say, no, I don't trust this race. Then I say, you are the lawyer, will you vouch for him? If something goes wrong, you will be responsible. Then I have to say, I vouch for him because he's a friend of mine for many years. Then only he rent it to him. So that is really a discrimination.
I think one thing that the Malays feel when it comes to discrimination is when we talk about getting jobs. You know, job application, when you say Mandarin only speaking, I don't know whether should I view it as discrimination. Okay, maybe that company has to deal with Chinese, you know, like companies from overseas, so they have to be able to speak Mandarin. Maybe sometimes like it's not being advertised on the job offers, but then suddenly a Chinese guy got it because he's Chinese. That kind of things, you know, when you don't really tell people that that's what you want, and then you feel like, am I being discriminated because I'm Malay? And you know, that kind of thing. And sometimes there are people saying, I'm a Malay, I can speak Chinese, but I see they didn't get a job. So that kind of things do kind of being circulated around among the Malay community.
But I have one question in my mind that when I speak in a language that you don't understand, means the conversation doesn't involve you. Like it's like, why must I let you know? It's like if I'm meant to talk to you, of course I will speak in a language that you can understand. But for me, I'm not talking back behind you, but you know, language is just a tool of communication. Of course, I'm more familiar in my mother tongue, so when I speak with you, of course, it will be more effective to me to speak in Mandarin. But in order to take care of the other's feeling, then I need to shift my language. What about my feeling? Like, it made me feel like I didn't talk bad about you, but why are you like thinking bad about me? Doesn't it hurt my feeling as well?
Understood, Carmen. Yeah. But in the UK, I did the reverse. When in the bus, you know, I'm with perhaps with Zihao or my Malaysian friends, and want to say that this particular race is busuk, we will say in bahasa Melayu, busuk ke makcik ni.
Because there are some people using the language they don't know. Using this.
So ideas in
So I had the same idea when I'm here. They had a better deal.
Well, interesting questions. We're getting into the gist of it. We talk about discriminations already. So can we have the go back to the bubble? And next one.
The third question.
I believe every races have equal rights in Malaysia. I believe all races
Wow, no one want
have
to come
equal
up.
rights in Malaysia.
Seems like
Seriously.
we have lots of similarities. So
Nobody agree?
those who
Seriously?
disagree,
Okay, those disagree, please come forward.
and tell us why.
Yeah.
So in Islam, there's a concept of adil. Adil means putting things in the right place. So that does not mean it has to be equal. For you to be just, it doesn't have to be equal. Opportunity of Malays and Chinese getting into scholarships, right? So this is a very sensitive issue. I have friends who got slightly better results than I am. Then she didn't able to get whatever. No, I got to overseas, and I can have your comparison. I'm just studying locally, and this Malay guy. But how do you see that as right? Is it because the Malays, the Malays as the kaum Bumi Putra, the majority, the one who initially was here, and the Chinese came. Of course, when you talk about this history, it's very sensitive, right? Chinese and Indians came later, and then therefore the right is not there. When I go to overseas, those people who are Irish and EUs are being prioritized. Should I see that as they violating my right, even though I'm better than them? Or should I see them as, okay, they are the people here, even though they are less better than me, they should get peluang lebih daripada saya. I mean, I don't know how to go about that, but I mean, I'm trying to put my shoes in your shoes in Malaysia. Then I'm there and I experienced being a minority as well. When I was working in hospital in Cork, we only have a caravan as our surau, which only fit 15 people. When there are hundreds of Muslims working in the hospital, we applied for a mosque. We're being denied, even though there are Irish Muslims. They are citizens of, but they are denied at that time lah. But now it's getting better. So should I see that as a, kind of thing, like you are trying to balance between.
You should.
should I?
The baseline to discuss this issue is that we're all Malaysians. We all belong to the same countries, and different policies shouldn't apply based on your skin color, but I think it should be applied based on meritocracy. For example, the example you referred to earlier, I think the EU have a different policy for foreigners. I think that's okay, but I think the question is whether, as Malaysians, do we have equal rights? I think if you look at the NEP, the new economic policy, there are several policies that are more favorable to Bumi Putras. For example, if your company want to get listed, you need to have 12.5% of the shares held by Bumi Putras. For new projects, new houses, 30% of home buyer have to be Bumi Putras. And discount of at least, I think now is 7% discount has to be given to Bumi Putras. To talk about equal rights, meaning everything has to be based on merits. So if you are good, you are good. If you are not good, then you are not qualified. But if it is based on race, status, Bumi Putras, Chinese, Indians, then we cannot say that strictly we have equal rights to a sense. So I think to talk about equal rights, I don't think we have equal rights in
But I
Malaysia.
think tax is equal, right?
Yeah, tax is equal.
Well, I agree what Doctor said. I mean, it's quite ironic that the Malays have to travel overseas to feel unequal. I think we'll be lying to myself if I say there are equal things in Malaysia. Especially if you have Indian friends, you will complain about traffic stops. If you have Chinese friends, of course, they will complain about taxation. I mean, how come, I don't get everything that you have, but when it comes to tax, we have the same burden. But if I could explain it, if you allow me to explain, I think the reason why we have such an maybe not so much equal situation, if you have more participation in non-Malays in critical Malay sectors, or vice versa, Malays participating in more the gentings of the world, there's a critical lack of non-Malays, non-Muslims participation in the public sector, especially the police, especially the military. I mean, imagine if we have 30% quota in the police situation, then perhaps the non-Malays and non-Muslims won't get unfair traffic stops. I mean, this is what my friends believe. I also don't have never see or experience that myself. For example, the teachers, my own guru besar would love to see 10 years, 20 years ago when we have diverse pool of teachers. Then the students will be more exposed to different culture and experiences in Malaysia. I think the equal debate or the pushback must come from us. The shows like this, what Carmen and Lucas is doing, breaking the bubble, I think from both community, the Malays who feel discriminated at the job sector, at the job section, employment and all this, and from the non-Malays in terms of the public service. If the 40% of tax officers are from the non-Malays and non-Muslim community, then there will be a natural pushback for if you contribute X amount to Chinese schools, you get X tax cut. There will be a natural pushback in the department. I mean, I can see PDRM is breaking their ass. I mean, it's trying their best. Okay. You know, to promote every single experienced non-Malays in the best position. I mean, if you notice that, on the public service side, there seems to be a struggle to fill the gap. We want to show a united and diverse Malaysia, but we just need more of you guys inside.
Factually, I think all of us has made our decisions that all 5 of us think Malaysia, at the moment, we don't have equal rights for different races. How about the question, I tune a bit to, should we have equal rights? I think that's what Dr. Fairuz initially mentions, like because you are different position, you different capability, then maybe equal rights is not the right answer. Equal rights is not answer maybe for certain thing, but for most of the thing, probably we should reconsider or rethink about it. Like what we had mentioned, I don't know whether this is sensitive to raise about the Constitution's Article 153, that it actually outlines something that, or some sector that we actually agreed that Malay do have a special position. But how about things that are not fall within that article? Like what did he mention in, the listed company shares, the housing discounts and things like that? I mean, are we going for a future that we can reach an agreement to, to be more equal? Not in every aspect, but a bit more equal?
The question is that should there be a special right? Well, special right, the name is right, equal rights. So equal rights should be universal. It should be applicable to everyone, equal rights, and then we fight on other things. Well, that happens in America, equal right may not be upon foreigners, let's say. That is fine. But now the problem is like this: in Malaysia, rights is not equal. Right? It's a tool to achieve equality of outcome. It's a tool to remedy the problem occurred by equal rights. Like for example, predominantly, factually, Malay community are not financially capable than the Chinese community, and it may escalate into a public disorder in the future, and the public disorder destroy all the rights we want. Racial hatred, like what happened in Indonesia, and then they trigger a forced assimilation and sorts. So rights being the tool to remedy, other races were compensated in other ways. But leading to a wider context in this thing, discrimination happens all the time in every corner of the world. But it's just a matter of whether it's a racial discrimination or social discrimination. Well, in the UK, the rich people may look down at the beggar. In Korea, the superior may look down at the driver, all these things. In India, they even slap the lower caste, people of the lower caste, though it's banned already. It's just that so happened that we, in Malaysia, coincidentally, certain race fit into certain social ladder. That actually is an extension of my first answer. Let's say there are more ratio of B40 comprises of Malay. I'm stating a matter of fact. It's not being racist over here, right? But there are more Malay in B40, more Indian in B40 compared to Chinese. So even though we break through this discrimination among races, even though we enjoy full equal rights, this will still happen because it's a human nature that people do look down on another people based on profession, based on their social ladder, based on their income, based on other factors than race. So race is just one of the many things. How many among us actually looks down at the pacik who cleans the street and then told our kids, if you don't study hard, you'll become like him, kind of thing, regardless of race, you see. And that is what we call occupational discrimination. And that is what we call financial capability discrimination. So happens Chinese are mostly employer and other races are mostly employee, and Chinese become the racist one in terms of what I just mentioned. So happens Malay is a majority, is a country, and then they have policies to protect Malay, they become the racist one. But even without race factor, this happens as well. And how to make sure that this happens in the right way, there is no right answer. You mentioned about equal rights, but equal rights that leads to injustice, is that what we are looking for? That's what Dr. Fairuz said. That's what Chong Han raised a question. But we have different answers to what Chong Han's answer. But for me, public order and the general development of the country triumph over trivial political interpretation of equal rights.
When you talk about equal rights, we always talk about racial equal rights between different races. Can we just break from this and we talk about, say, gender equality, social class equality, economic equality? Like if you want to help people who are poor, can we help people who are poor from all races?
That is a very good question. Yes, the answer is yes, we can. There's this thing government come up with this policy called Satu Malaysia. And what is Satu Malaysia? Bantuan Rakyat Satu Malaysia, Kedai Rakyat Satu Malaysia. It means no race. We are helping the poor. The Satu Malaysia concept, then that is the exact answer. So I love the Satu Malaysia concept until this Dana Berhad attached behind. But Satu Malaysia is actually a solution. And Rakyat can accept it. Malay accepts it. Chinese accept the concept of, let's say, Bantuan Rakyat Satu Malaysia. Tak ada Cina, tak ada Melayu, tak ada India, siapa B40 dia dapat. Kedai Rakyat Satu Malaysia, siapa susah dia dapat. So that is actually a solution to that based on it. But politically, when politics is of essence, then things got terribly screwed up.
We are saying that equal rights may be injustice.
Okay.
Do you all agree that?
Yes, I agree. May. The keyword is may. Yes, I agree. For example, let me set a context for equal right as in of equality in terms of opportunity. When you put a male and a female equal rights, okay, you are going to compete among yourself, two of you, to run a 100-meter thing, 100-meter track, okay? You start at the same point and you end at the same point. That's equal right. But do you get equal result? You get a fair result if you put a male and a female of an equal standing, but physically they are unequal already. So you need to do something to compensate.
What does this put into the context of race? Like what kind of thing that male and female that has a scientifically proven physical difference? What about race?
I think to lump all equality of rights together is not really comparable. All these different rights. For gender rights, different sex is scientifically proven that men cannot really, in terms of sports or labor or physically compared to women and vice versa. That's why we have best male sportsmen, best women, female sportsmen. In terms of rich and the poor, the inequality has always been there. So I think in terms of policy-wise, if you look at Western countries, there have been different policy to help the poor. That is to ensure that the poor people also have access to the same opportunities, or roughly the same, or as best as they could, the same opportunities as the rich. But race transcends over all this. Race doesn't say about your merits. It in itself doesn't say about your background. It in itself doesn't say about how smart or how your level of intelligence. Race is just your skin color. That's all. Full stop. If you limit a certain sector of things for a certain race, then essentially you are eliminating the best chance or best opportunities that is available to all other races. So I think that is, in the long term, that could only harm our society, and it suppress the talented people from achieving what they can achieve.
You see, Malaysia is quite special because apparently we try our heart. I think it's a long battle journey to make everybody feel equal. I feel that we won't talk about discrimination and equal rights if the cake is bigger. The reason why we are here, so much contention, is that the cake seems to be in the last maybe decade or so, because of our political turmoil, Malaysia seems to be not reaching the heights that we think we all deserve. Some blame it on political structure, some blame it on the social structure, some blame it from the education system. We are so separated. I mean, we start finger pointing at everyone, but without realizing that all of us have a responsibility to ensure that the cake is much bigger. I think what we have to do as a society, we must push and elect a government that prioritize in making the economy bigger. At the moment, we prioritize with we elect leaders that we think we like or represent our race or represent the point of view that we like. We forgot to go back to days when it's all about who's performing and who's not, who's have got a better track record or not. Now we simply rely on some people who have better formula. We simply look at the social media avenue of campaigning and we decided which leader we like, which leader we don't like, which one is racist, which one is not racist. But we never actually consider their track record. But the fight towards equal rights is, of course, I feel, is that we have to vote and elect for the performing government rather than the government or the people that we like.
Oh, very good conclusion. I think you should be the host. Seriously.
Next time I will have you.
I don't know how to finish their fight just now, you know. I'm quite scary and I don't know what to do, but very good conclusion. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Yeah, so everyone, what do you think about this topic? And please behave yourself, okay? Mind your words.
Please like and share and subscribe our channel if you like this program. So this all.
Tell us your thoughts, like what you have to make emotions, and let's hope for a better Malaysia.
Alright, thank you so much.
Yeah.
The diversity of races is a treasure in our country and we should cherish it. Racial harmony cannot be achieved if we choose to stay within our own little circle. So let's break down racial barriers, starting from sharing this video to your multiracial friends.